Indian household hosts 25,000 tons of gold in their house.
25,000 tons?
Even the bank cannot assure that I can keep your stuff safe. They cannot install a CCTV camera inside the strong room because of privacy reasons. If some burglary or theft is happening, you get only...
Wow, which is nothing.
Sort
of visual experience of that locker coming out of that table. There is a place to sit, which is again very unique in a bank locker. You don't get that.
There are close to 2,000 sensors, 20 cameras inside, constantly monitoring the strong room. A completely institutional grade security.
Vijay, your journey is fantastic. You started off as an Air Force pilot, then did a MBA from one of the top business schools in India. From that origin to starting Aurm, how did it come about? What was the personal discovery or the revelation that came to you as a result of which you decided to start Aurm?
First of all, thanks for having me here. I actually have a different way of looking at things. So I look for problems that I want to solve, right? And to solve problems, it is always first principle thinking. Right?
That's right.
And that first principle thinking is a common denominator for any profession that you go. And similarly, when I thought about MyGate, it was more like, I had this problem in my, when I observed this problem, I discussed this with my, one of my long-term buddy at ISB. I told him, yes, I have a problem and this is the way I'm thinking we can solve it. Are you in for it? And then he said, yeah, I'll build it for you. And that's how I started MyGate. And now, while serving these 4 million homes across, close to 25,000 gated communities across the country, what we saw is actually India is shaping up in a completely different way.
Okay.
Right? What used to be 15 years back, any pin code you take, there used to be 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 homes, right? Across, say, 3-4 kilometers, square kilometers. But what is happening now is the new townships that are coming up, they're coming up in few pin codes and they're all coming up vertically. If you see gated communities, right? Why did they come also? Because of, the physical infrastructure in a city is not catching up with the population influx or the migration that is happening in.
That's right.
And that was identified by these builders that, why don't we build these private enclaves where, people who can afford, they'll come and buy security, they'll buy amenities, they'll buy cleanliness, they'll buy electricity, 24/7 electricity and water supply.
So like first world countries within third world cities.
Exactly, right? So this was identified by the builders and they started selling these gated communities. And gated communities require land of particular, sizes and all. And that was not available within the city. So they said, these townships are coming all, like Outer Ring Road was built and, you see so many of gated communities in these pin codes.
Yeah.
So earlier, 1,000 to 2,000 families used to stay in this one pin code. Today in one pin code, there are close to 50,000 families.
Wow.
Affluent families, right? And their consumption is also, right, happening in those pin codes.
Correct.
And it's a very homogeneous consumption.
That's right.
Basically for us, it is a ready-made market that affluent Indians are the ones who use, who want locker, right? And they're all found in a particular gated community, right? And the second thing we studied was, one is these gated communities were coming up in few pin codes and density was increasing. But the banks were not able to, banks is a typical guideline by RBI that these many square kilometers, these many banks need to be, right? Yeah. And even if all of them wanted to put lockers in that particular square kilometer, what, RBI mandates, they cannot give more than, 1,000 lockers for, these 50,000 consumers, right? So there is a demand supply of 50:1, right? And I think more importantly, even though you have a demand, right? Even for some reason you get a locker, it's extremely difficult to operate a locker. The reason is you have to come out of your house and, battle the traffic, reach the bank, not find parking, not find, working hours issues. And then you will find somebody who will take you inside the locker room. And that is dingy. Feeling aata hai ki you're coming to steal your own stuff, right? So, and then the lockers construct of the locker is also says that they will build that huge, large lockers where, you either have to stand on a stool to access your locker or almost, sit on the ground to access your locker.
Correct.
I said, yaar, pehle to milta nahi hai. And then milne ke baad, it is so difficult for you to operate.
Yeah.
I said, this consumer needs a different form of operating. And then what happened is, again, parallelly, I happened to go through the same experience. 15 years in Bangalore, I'd never got a locker. And once I got a locker, I gave the key to my wife. She never got the guts to go and visit a bank and come back. And that's when I realized getting a locker is difficult and operating it is difficult. So why don't we redesign this experience, right? And that's how Aurm was born.
But two very big insights. One is obviously the wealth creation or affluence that is happening in India.
Yeah.
The second thing which you've said is concentration of that from a geographical density perspective.
Correct.
And I feel like so many businesses can exist now because of that. For instance, even quick commerce to some extent is because of the density in that area and the closeness of the dark store.
Yes.
And in your case, you've identified a gap on the storage of valuables and brought it very close to the end user.
See, I think every form of consumption is going to change because of this structure. Every form of consumption. Whether you take entertainment, it'll come up closer to these places. And more importantly, like, I told you, right, very homogeneous consumption. Right? 30 million homes are there inside these gated communities today.
30 million. So
30 million
3
homes.
crore
it is
homes.
3 crore homes inside these gated communities
Wow.
today. Right? All over India, there are, 30 crore homes.
Let's actually look at that number. Like 3 crore homes, meaning each one of these homes would be more than, let's say, 1 or 2 crore or thereabouts, right? Because
I would put an average of, say, 80 lakh rupees.
80 lakh rupees.
Average, right? If you take complete average, 80 lakh rupees per home.
Wow. And that kind of, first of all, physical wealth is there.
Yes.
And then on top of that, these guys will have a certain amount of gold and jewelry, etc.
So if you see Indian, like if you look at any Indian, right, his investment starts with gold. Because that's the most brain-dead investment product that is available in the market today. Right? And over generations, we have seen that gold is a fantastic product, which is only appreciating. And it can be bought in various sizes, right? 10,000 bhi kharid sakta hu, 1 lakh also, 20 lakhs also, and 2 crores also.
Correct.
Versus if you need to take something in, say, equity, you need to be smart enough to understand equity market and take, quality judgment that this will give me a consistent return.
That's right.
Real estate is a very, very large ticket item, right? 60, 70 lakh rupees ka item. And that you get the capability to buy that after a certain number of years of experience you have and you created your own, credibility and wealth. That is the time you can get into real estate. So gold is the first form of investment what people have.
That's
Second is, real estate.
And what's your estimate of the kind of precious metals, physical holdings that these families would have?
See, the data is, Gold Council has released. India has got the second highest, gold reserves, right? When I say gold reserve, not in the banks or the Reserve Bank of India, but Indian household host 25,000 tons of gold in their house.
25,000 tons of gold in the house?
Yes.
Wow.
Right? And that is sitting idle. 25,000 tons. You just imagine what is the value of it.
Yeah.
And that's sitting idle because we don't know. See, India, I'll tell you one more insight, right? Why do we invest so much in the gold, right? When I started Aurm, people said that, Vijay, do you think that people invest in gold? Some of the young people, right? I said that, see, for example, like when we get married, most of us get married between 25 to 30. First 5 years of our life is that golden era, like a lot of travel, experiences and all those things. You don't end up saving money. You try to, spend money for experiences and all. Yeah. You have one kid, then your travel and experiences come down by 90%, right? You have another kid, 100% kam ho jata hai, right? And then you still need to be romantic to your spouses. How do you be romantic, right? And we don't buy a Louis Vuitton bag or, something like that. What we tend to do is men are selfish in India.
They tend to buy depreciating assets.
Yes. They'll buy gold or diamonds, right? And they'll give it as a gift. So, dono, right? It's a gift, romantic, ye ho gaya. And then second is you also invested.
Yeah.
And we will end up consuming gold like never before. Yeah. And that's actually been proven in the last 4 quarters. Since the time I started thinking about Aurm and building Aurm, every quarter is the highest gold ever sold in India. Yeah. Right? And for the last 8 quarters, I'm seeing that every quarter is the highest. Yeah. So consumption of gold is only increasing. And you also tend to see, right? Yeah. Everybody is getting into the business of selling, jewelry in India.
That's right.
And that's the kind of market that is.
Yeah, I wish people would give their spouses portfolios, but they actually don't. They give gold. And when, the other alternative to putting money in a bank locker, which is, like you explained, hard to access, sometimes it's not available, and even the experience of going there is poor.
Yeah.
The other alternative is keeping it at home, right? And obviously, clearly there are risks around it, but
Correct.
how hard is it for you to convince people that they should not keep valuables at home and instead they should keep it in with Aurm?
So this, I I also had the same thing, right? Who's my competitor here?
Yeah.
Is the bank locker my competitor? Is the home safe my competitor? Then I did some research. One day I said in MyGate, I'll send a survey to all the MyGate consumers, and close to 10,000 responses in 1 hour I got.
Yeah.
Right. And then thereafter the responses were more or like it was the same, right?
Yeah.
And what we figured out is only 15% of the people staying in these gated communities have locker in the city of their residence.
Makes sense. My locker is in Bombay.
Yeah. Only 15% of them have.
Yeah.
And of those, the distance from their home to the locker is on average 7 kilometers. Right? Remaining 85% of them, 50% have their lockers in their hometown. And then remaining 50%, they're not able to get access to a locker.
Correct.
Those 50%, they have chosen to buy a home safe just because they're not able to get access to a locker.
Correct.
Right? So that's the kind of, that's the statistics around the need for a locker, right?
That's right.
It always turned out that the people who are buying home locker, the primary reason given by them was, I'm not able to get an access to a locker closer to my home, right? So this is the reason they're going for a home locker. But both of them comes with, inherent problem statements, right? One is, bank lockers. Other than the inconvenience aspect, the design of the bank lockers today is such that even the bank cannot assure that I can keep your stuff safe, right? And actually, like 2 years back, they used to take an indemnity from you that in case of a theft or a burglary, the bank is not responsible, right? RBI introduced some rules in terms of, no, you can't, shy away from this responsibility of keeping people's jewelry safe who are trusting a bank and coming. So you need to give something. So bank is giving it from their own balance sheet. If some burglary or theft is happening, and it is proven that it is due to the negligence of the bank will give 100 times of the yearly rental that they charge.
Okay.
Generally, the bank rentals are between 2,000 to 3,000 rupees a year, and you get only 2 to 3 lakh rupees. Right?
Wow, which is nothing.
Yeah. And that also, it says that due to negligence of the bank.
To prove that first.
What is negligence of the bank? The only SOP they have today is it needs to be in a strong room. And second is there need to be a CCTV camera outside.
That's it.
This is like, negligence is this thing, right? Then all the banks have got their bank insurance partners, or most of them have got their insurance thing also, right? None of their same insurance guys are insuring the bank lockers.
Okay.
Right? The reason is, once you get inside a bank locker, you have access to all the other lockers.
Okay. Wow.
As a consumer, right?
Wow.
And second is, they cannot install a CCTV camera inside the strong room because of privacy reasons.
Sure.
Now, aapne kya rakha wahan pe? What did you withdraw? There is no record of it. And, you may have stolen the next guy's locker. Correct. Or somebody else must have stolen your locker. There is no way to prove it.
Yeah.
So this is something called as mysterious disappearance in the insurance language. If they're not able to prove how it disappeared, I can't insure, right? And hence bank lockers are not insured.
Wow.
Second, if you go to the home safes, right? Home safes come with their own, problem statement. If you want today to get a proper home safe, like a tijori, what used to be in the olden days, right? It need to weigh at least 150 kilos for you to get that strength and nobody will be able to take it types, right? 150 kilos of a locker manufacture karke, you just imagine about the supply chain constraints that has got.
Correct.
Right?
Absolutely.
Hence, now it has come down to that 1 mm, 2 mm gauge that, lockers
Small
which are made in
China
and got in here, right?
Yeah.
None of them are safe. Actually, with a gas cutter, portable gas cutter ke saath you can cut it.
Which is very easily available.
Very easily available. Portable gas cutter in Amazon mein mil jata. You just play it on it for some time, wo cut ho jata, right? And it's only उसमें क्या बोलते हैं, it's only fire safe. Fire safe, ISA has got some standards that fire safe होने के लिए need to withstand this much of temperature for this much duration. You are fire safe. That is the only safety parameter in home safes. Second is you keep safes at your home and you take a home insurance. Jewelry is insured only up to 2 lakh rupees.
Okay.
Like you say that I had 1 crore worth of jewelry and say 30 lakhs worth of my whatever rest of the stuff, right? You'll get only 32 lakhs. But what we give here is a completely institutional grade security, right? It's almost like a second bedroom of yours, or whatever master bedroom you have, your second master bedroom mein hum ye rakhte hain, closer to your home. You can just walk down and not take more than 2 minutes to access your locker. And we did a very smart design thinking here. We have divided the entire locker setup into 2 chambers. One is the strong room, which is fully monitored. There are close to 2,000 sensors and close to 20 cameras inside, constantly monitoring the strong room.
Got it.
Right? Any human that goes, what he's doing, what he's touching, everything. Right? First of all, no human can go.
Yeah.
Even if he goes, we can monitor that. And we have these 2,000 sensors, which are like these sensors that you put in your stethoscope.
Okay.
Stethoscope detects all minute vibrations as well, right? These 2,000 stethoscopes are connected together within the strong room to detect any kind of vibration, sound, heat, smoke, or even anybody knocks even our strong room, we get to know, right? So that way we have built the entire security around the strong room and no human can get inside. And we use robotics to fetch your locker and present it to in a different area, which is completely private, which the consumer, which we need to give privacy to the consumer.
That's right.
So it just operates like a bank locker. You just go, put your credentials outside the door. You get to enter this room where you can access your locker. And again, put second set of credentials, 2-factor authentication. The system will identify that it is Sandeep and his locker number is so and so, and this is the place it is there. It'll go pick it up from there and present it to you in a safe area, right? And this is the way we completely automated the process without needing any human involvement, right? And right within your gated community. And the ambience is almost like an extended dressing room. We built it in such a way that the lady can get dressed up at home, come there, take out the jewelry, try it on, go for the party, come back, again put it inside the this thing and go back home. Right? That's the way we have.
It's very fascinating. So I live very close to where you live in Adarsh Palm Retreat, and that's one of the locations where you have an Aurm. So we are happy customers. And for me, like this whole experience of, first of all, 2-factor authentication to get inside, followed by how the sort of visual experience of that locker coming out of that table. There is a place to sit, which is again very unique in a bank locker. You don't get that. It's well lit. And I think I didn't notice a mirror. Now I think about why the mirror was there, because it's very thoughtful. How did you design this? What went behind it? Was it first principles, or was it like, did you have designers put together a standard template?
Actually it was first principles. We got into the mind that it has to be designed very nicely, right? But initial days we did not have too much of capital, and you ask any space designer to after giving the brief for designing that, they were asking me crore and a half. I said, yeah, crore and a half chodo. I said, let me design, right? And then I think I spoke to a couple of ladies. I asked them, what do you want and all those things. And I didn't get much from them though, because they were happy with the mirror itself. मतलब जो bank में मिल रहा versus a mirror itself is too good for us.
The expectation was so low.
Expectation was so low. Then I said that but the problem was, I need the space that was given for the access was small, because every community will not have large spaces. Then I didn't want to make people claustrophobic in small space, right? And to overcome that, we used a lot of design thinking that what will give them a feeling that you're going into a large system, right? And one of the product that solved this really well was lifts, right? You actually get into a small space, and you're in that high risk environment for close to 2-3 minutes based on the floor that you're going to. And they solved it really well. The design of the lift, and if you go to certain 5-star hotels, even more better it is, right? I use some of the principles from that, right?
Wow.
How do you make the space much more comfortable for people, in a small kind of setup, right? And then added certain elements of, mirrors and, telephone. We actually give telephone also in the setup, because if there is no network, right, you can actually call up anybody, right? And we also have something like fault detectors, right? We use a technology called millimeter wave radar, right? It will detect if a person has fallen down, because we can't put cameras because of privacy. If a person has come inside and for some reason something has happened, so there's a millimeter wave radar to detect if the person has fallen down, and we send medical emergency. We alert the security guards, we alert the joint account holder, our own team goes there, and we send a medical team just to take care of the situation. So we thought through a lot of things in terms of what can go wrong, right? And again, this is first principle thinking, that assume that the problem that you're wanting to solve is solved. What is the next set of problem that is likely to come? And then we went into that 5 layers, 6 layers, and figured out what is needed, and then we built all those things accordingly.
One thing, now that you speak, when you remember the Aurm locker, there are certain pictures on the wall.
Yes.
Of certain individuals. You want to talk about that?
Yeah. So one of the reasons I'll tell you, and if you must have seen that, those pictures are also a little bit, on the dark background.
Yeah.
Right. So we said that we can't have a room that is fully white.
Yeah.
And there is an infinity problem. If you see only white all around, right? There is an infinity problem, and you'll not know where you are. Space orientation is not there.
Sure.
Then I told that, how do you, declutter that, right? So, and this was basically my Air Force experience. When you fly through clouds, we don't know, we can't appreciate distance, and we can't appreciate anything. We think that the entire infinity is in front of us, but actually we are not able to see anything.
Correct.
Right? And we didn't want this kind of thing in a well lit up area, because it's all white.
Yeah.
You don't know we can't perceive the distance. You may walk into the wall also. Right?
Okay. Got it.
That time we need to break that focus, right? Your eye, the confusion that is there in your eyes. So we put these photographs in such a way that, we are able to defocus the consumer's, vision. And being from the armed forces, one of the things that we realized is people don't they don't remember armed forces people unless it is a Republic Day or Independence Day, or, some Operation Sindoor happens or something, right? We said that, how do you constantly make people remember that some people have, sacrificed their life for you, right? So we dedicate every, Aurm site to one armed forces veteran who actually lost his life in action. And we also, from the profits, we sponsor the education of one child from, whatever time we identify the child to graduation, right? We felt that this is a way for us to give back. And second is, since this product is a high trust product, we only hire people either from the armed forces or the, kids of armed forces.
Got it.
Right? And so that the whole feeling of, good feeling for the armed forces is there in everybody's mind. Hence we said that this is the way for us to give back to the, community, and we got in their photographs across the world.
I love how you brought together design thinking with your own experience and impact. It's just fascinating. Lots for all entrepreneurs to learn from this experience, Vijay. I also now coming to how we sell this service, right? I think about, obviously the end customer is largely women of the households who want their valuables to be secure. But at the very first instance, convincing a gated community to allow you that space. So there is an element of B2B sales followed by B2C sales. How does that actually work out? How do you actually pitch the concept?
Yeah. I go in the principle that there is no B2B in this world, right? It's only B2C, right? Yeah. Because the reason is, say you're the management committee member or RWA committee member, right? You're also actually a consumer. Yeah. I first need to sell you as a consumer, right? And once you resonate with this problem, then you say, yeah, all of them are like me only here in this community. I told you, right? Homogeneous consumption. Yeah. Everybody needs it, right? So we don't try to sell the RWA. We try to sell it to the resident. Like I keep telling that whenever I meet the management committee members, right? I actually gauge whether this society is my potential client or not. If I'm meeting 5 people, if 3 of them are telling I'll go with this product, right? That means my product market fit is there, right? So that means if there are 300 people, 100 people will take my product on the word go itself.
Sure.
And then some people will be that, laggards and followers, right? Those people will come later on.
Correct.
But this 100 people will be the one guys who will take it, right? That's one indication for me in terms of how the product will do. So I go completely in a B2C manner. My product thinking and my product communication, everything is B2C. So when we go to these members, we show them the product, explain them the product. If, 3 out of 5 are resonating with the problem, they say that, we'll make space for you, right?
Makes sense.
And these days, luckily, quick commerce is doing half our job because most of these gated communities used to have some or the other grocery store, right?
Yeah.
And none of them are doing well. So the grocery store is being, vacated and they don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And we are taking up that space, right? Which is already there. So like quick commerce is given the second order benefit is we are, getting benefited out of it, right? So for us, it becomes very easy for getting that space because they were making some revenue out of it, like a rental revenue. And because of the grocery store vacating, now they're not able to make any revenue. And the moment I go there, they tell me, please take up this space, right?
Yeah.
And we get the space and we have designed the system in such a way that, it's completely modular. Like there is panels, strong room panels, which we manufacture with sensors and all those things.
Yeah.
And once we get the space, any open space, we just go there. Within 2 days, we create a strong room. We integrate all the sensors. Another 2 days, we do the full installation of our machinery and, mechatronics. Another 10 to 15 days, we do the interiors of the access bay and all. Basically, in 20 to 25 days, we make the complete setup live and running.
Under a month, you go
Under
live?
Under a month.
Wow,
right?
Fascinating.
We make it fully operational. And while we are making it operational, we do all the communications within the resident that there is some setup coming like this and, we communicate with them. And before we go live, 20% of our lockers get sold. And then after we go live, within, 2 months, another 20% of our locker gets sold.
Yeah.
Right. So that's how, the whole thing happens.
Before we started recording, Vijay, you were telling me about the amazing way you structured the fee model for the lockers.
Yeah.
And I think it's a great study for most people on pricing. Walk us through how people pay for it and what are the different options for them.
Perfect. So I'll before that, right, I'll cover one more point in terms of, the trust component, right? So one of the biggest thing for us is people need to trust us, right? So we actually, if you see, trust cannot be bought overnight, right? And we have to do, right, we promise a product and the delivery of the service is happening consistently over a period of time without any problem. Trust automatically builds. You can't hack into trust, right?
Absolutely.
Some of the other things that we did is we want to make the user experience so superlative that consumer starts with a positive note. If aaj ke din pe, if a different locker company is coming, the trust component is here and bank is here. If I make the experience superlative, the way I have designed the space and all those things, the trust automatically starts from here. So example of this is ICICI Bank, right? In 1995 when ICICI Bank started first, I don't know what was there in Mr. Kamat's mind, but what as a consumer I took away is, why did I bank with ICICI? It was a private bank and all this while I was with a nationalized bank. The thing that made a difference and I went to ICICI was, if you see earlier SBI or any of these banks, you need to be referred by 2 people who already had an account.
Yeah.
Nahi to milta nahi tha, account nahi milta tha. That was one friction. Right? Second was, what ICICI did is you go get into ICICI branch, it was well lit, air conditioned. First bank that was air conditioned, right? It was open 8 to 8 versus 10 to 3 for all these nationalist banks. The third important factor, those days we all used to go to the bank to update our passbook because that's the way we used to know our balance kitna hai, right? And if you had an account in any nationalist bank, you need to go to that bank branch and then give for this thing, apna passbook do, update karke, he used to give it. What ICICI did is you update your bank passbook in any branch. You can go to any branch and update it. You want to withdraw a check or deposit a check, you can go to any branch and do it. So he did that core banking thing and he made their experience so superlative and he was omnipresent. You go on a road, 1 kilometer, aapko 2-3 ICICI bank to dikh hi jate the, right? And when he did all these 3 things, right, by 2003, 8 years fast forward, he was more trusted than RBI actually. If you take a consumer pulse, he was trusted more than RBI, right? I said that first let me do, the basics, right? And then I said that, we need to do our pricing so well that customer is able to see the value that, or the price that he's paying. Of course, we are not able to give it at the price what banks were, in a tier 2, tier 3 banks were giving it.
Sure.
Right. But the overall cost structure, like if you go to a bank today, he will ask you to do some FD or insurance or something. The overall cost structure for you is, at least 2 to 3 times more than what.
So there's an unseen price because the FD that you will do is probably at a lower return.
Correct.
Or a ULIP you should never do, and so on. So
exactly. Right. So unseen prices are there. When you compare that and see, we are actually much, much, much better than all these things, right? I said that how do you price it so that customer is able to get the value for what it is, right?
Yeah.
And that's how we came out to 3 pricing models, right? One is, if a consumer can afford, I said that give me some refundable security deposit and you don't pay any rent. The locker is free for you. And when you surrender the locker, you get back your refundable deposit. And this refundable deposit for me was, I was able to recover certain capex of mine because we invest a ton of money and we want to recover some capex from it. This refundable security deposit used to give us that. Second is consumers who are not able to pay, like 3 lakh rupees I can't pay, so I'll pay yearly rental. Customers used to go for yearly rental for 2 reasons. One is maybe they're not able to afford that much, or second is I still have not, let me try it for 1 year. So they go in the rental model and they want to flip to the, deposit model after 1 year that, okay, everything is working fine and all those things I want to shift, right? And this actually helped us to get our operating revenue, right? Covering my operating cost and all those things, right? I think a combination of these, I priced it in such a way that, like for example, my large size locker is 15,000 rupees rent, right? And if I take a 45,000 rupees as a refundable deposit, 3 years ka this thing. So the way the consumer calculates is what am I paying? I'm paying 15,000 plus the opportunity cost of this 45,000, which is probably 4,000 rupees. So 19,000 rupees is what he's paying. In the fixed deposit model, the refundable security deposit model, it is 3 lakh rupees.
Yeah.
So the consumer will say, I get 8%, that is on the higher side.
Sure.
8%, that is 24,000 minus 30% tax.
Yeah.
So it comes to 19,000.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't get this money back. I'm paying 19,000 versus I used to pay here 19,000.
Yeah.
So I'll go for this model because it's rent free for me. I get this money back the moment I surrender this locker.
Correct.
With that calculation, we have seen that 30 to 40% of the people, they go with the deposit model. Right now, we are in such a situation that we are getting more deposit than what we actually want, right? It's a different problem for us to solve, right? But this helped us to, get a fine balance to recover my capex and also make an annuity kind of business.
Yeah, I think that's the other very interesting part. As frugal businesses, how you fund the business is also very important. And in this model, what you've been able to do is, while the choice is with the end client or the customer, you are also able to have a part which is capex, part which is operating revenue, so that you have that balance of cash flow.
Correct. And this is also like, pricing it very, you should not do competitive pricing in this is what we have realized, right? Because customer, when he's talking to me, he doesn't negotiate with me on the price.
Yeah.
He negotiates, he's always wanting to find out, Vijay, how will you be sustainable?
Yeah.
Right? Because this is a product that I'm taking for next 30 years.
Correct.
I want you to be in the market for next 30 years, right?
That's right.
So when I explain my business model in so much of transparency, he says that yes, with this business model, you're going to remain in the markets. And that is also, right, in my case, pricing is also a very, very important trust marker for us.
Yes, absolutely.
If I set it up for failure by giving discounts and all those things, right?
Yeah.
I will not be able to run this business. Yeah. And if I'm not able to run this business, I don't want to be in a situation where, I shut down this business. Yeah. I'm building this for long term. So our pricing, everything has to be that thought through for the long term times.
No, absolutely. I think, and very similar to how we think about wealth management, right?
Of course, yeah.
You are custodians of people's wealth. We are also custodians of their portfolios, and therefore being sustainable and having the right economics
is very important.
Very important. And you're prior to starting Aurm, you had a very successful experience, which continuing to be chairman of MyGate. And there again, you had sold to housing societies and communities. potentially there the challenge of selling was harder, right?
Yeah,
because
Yes.
it's a service and it's intangible compared to what Aurm was.
Yeah.
What were your learnings from MyGate sales process that you were able to apply here?
See, I think as you said, right, the difficulty level that is there for selling MyGate versus Aurm, right? In the initial days, MyGate was very difficult. Like it was a new concept.
Yeah.
And I was saying that I'll simplify the entire security problem, right? And people feel that security kaise simplify ho sakta, right? Actually, my product was built in January 2016.
Okay.
My first customer came in April 2017.
So what are
right?
Almost
And
5 quarters you had no customers.
5 quarters and I was only knocking doors, right?
Yeah.
And nothing happened. Then, what we did is I actually, I took a house on rent in one of the most dense gated community in Bangalore, right? It was just so that I can get access to the management committee and prove my point that ye acha hai, right? I took a house on rent. I became a resident there. Although I was staying somewhere else, on papers, I became a resident in that community. And then I made friends with the, association. And I told that, give me a chance, give me a trial period, right? I'll not charge you anything. And you continue with whatever you're doing. I'll just give additional ammunition to your guards to perform the thing, right? They used it for 10 days and they got good reviews from the residents and the visitors who were coming in there, right? And that's when they said, okay, we'll go ahead with this. And there's so much of traffic into that community. It was a 1,000 houses community those days, 2016, one of the largest community in Bangalore. The traffic into that community is very, very high. Social friends, right, from nearby communities. And they saw, what is this system? Too good. And then, those guys reached out to us for the product. That's how we expanded the product there. Yeah. But the difficulty was, I would say, almost similar, right? But now with Aurm, we also got to know in terms of how these management committees, the structure of management committees is, what are their limitations, decision-making paths. So we have designed, actually the design of this product is also in such a way that it becomes very easy for the management committee to decide. Like say, for example, if I tell that I'll come and do a permanent structural change to your clubhouse, there'll be so much of it, hoga hi nahi, right? I said, I don't want any changes. Give me any space. I have designed my product around your space. I made it very modular. In 25 days, nahi chala to no problem, sir. I'll pick up everything and go to the next one. So I made it completely, designed the product in such a way. So I think learnings from MyGate in terms of how these communities behave, what are the bylaws and what are the legal constraints they have, and they change within 1 year, right? And the decision making cycle cannot be more than 2 months, because otherwise the decision will keep moving from like management committee to management committee, because their elections happen, right? So how do I make it easy for them to decide? So I designed the structure in such a way that it's very, very easy for people to decide. There's no, I would say that there is a sunk cost kuch hota when you do a decision, right? There is no sunk cost for the association to do, take this decision. Right?
I think it's fascinating last mile thinking also here, because, one is to have a great product, etc. But enablement of sales is also a very important part of it. So in terms of how, let's say, probably in your case, how the agreements are drawn up is also already addressing all the concerns that the society or the RWA might have at that point.
So we indemnify the RWA from any, this thing. So from if any fault of my Aurm, the RWA is completely indemnified. We put that in the contract.
Right.
So we made their life completely simple.
Right.
And what we do is, we actually reach out to a lot of residents even before reaching out to the RWA. So most of the times what happens is the residents go to the RWA and say that, why don't we get this product into our community? Well, I think this is a need for us. And then through them, the RWA reaches out to us, and then we go and explain the entire nuances of this business, and it becomes very easy for them to decide. It's not that I'm getting something which the residents don't want.
Sure.
It is mostly coming from the residents that you get this product in-house for us.
Very interesting. Vijay, I want to now switch gears to, like, as a CEO, how do you run this particular business? Like, when you look at the metrics of any business, you think about one item being the unit of economics. In some cases, it is the client. In e-commerce or quick commerce, I'm told it's the dark store. In your case, is it the specific vault or that particular unit that you're installing in a RW? Is that the unit of economics?
Yes, that's the unit for us. One unit that we install.
Yeah.
Right. How fast do we recover our money?
Yeah.
And, and we need to see a lot in terms of, how do you make that profitable,
Yes.
right? And multiple angles for it, right? Look at all our cost structures, get efficiencies there.
So there are fixed costs, which is the cost of setting it up.
Yes. Yeah.
And then there are operating costs,
right?
that are there.
So we actually did one big change, right? For example, one of the earlier communities where you stay, the setup was such that in a 200 square feet space, I was able to install only 180 lockers.
Yeah.
Right. And this goes multiple things for us, right? The strong room, the size of the strong room is 200 square feet, right? So the cost is X. Then we can only put 180 lockers. So the opportunity, what we get from the customer is Y, right?
Yeah.
Then what we did is we have redesigned the system, right? After taking a lot of feedback and all this, we redesigned the system in such a way that now to set up this 180 lockers, I just need 100 square feet.
Okay. So
I reduce my rent, I reduce my strong room, and more importantly, I am able to give much better service because the operations, then my cost structure has reduced, my OPEX has reduced, right? In fact, in the same community, if I go back, in that same 200 square feet, now I can put close to 450 lockers, right?
Got it.
So my revenue opportunity also has increased and my cost has also reduced significantly, right?
That's right.
So, so for us, we look at all these things, right? Actually, if you see, it's not that I reduce. For me, the one headcount come kar do, ya marketing come kar do. I never actually reached to that stage till now, right? Because there's so much of levers available in, how do you design the system itself, right? And any design change will get for me on my capex also and on my opex also.
That's right.
Right. That's the way we started identifying levers which are, having both the impacts, and we started reducing that. And rest of the things we are not spending as it is too much. Yeah.
So when you review the progress on one particular unit, what are the metrics that you look at? Like
fastest time for it to reach 40% occupancy.
Fastest time for it to reach 40%.
40% occupancy. Everything is designed around that.
Is there a minimum threshold that this much should be the capacity? Otherwise, you will not enter into
So we don't get into any gated community. So we do 3 checks there, right? What is the rent there?
Yeah.
Right. Or what is the per square feet? What is the sales happening on?
Sure.
And second is it should be not less than 300 homes.
Got it.
So we install less than 150 lockers installation is not viable for us.
Got it. Yeah. So less than 150 is not viable, and therefore you feel that minimum 300
homes,
residential units should be there.
Correct.
For it to make sense for you to establish.
Exactly. Yeah.
Got it. And before we started recording, you were telling me about, besides societies and communities, there are now newer locations that you are coming up with. How did you think about that?
So most of the communities, right? If you see go off like Mumbai, for example, right? The communities will be 100, 120 homes, but everybody is affluent in those 120 homes. That's right? And how do I cater to these guys? So we came up with a model that need not be within gated communities only. It can be outside of gated communities. So we look up for commercial spaces where generally jewelry stores and banks are already there, right? Uske bagal mein hum ye laga dete hain. Right? Because a lot of things are taken care, because a jewelry store jahan pe laga raha hai, he is making sure that there is enough parking for people to come, right? And a safe space is there, right? So we identify those spaces and we started setting up these lockers outside of gated communities as well.
Sure.
And now we are able to cater to these 50, 60 individual buildings which are not in gated communities, but also there is a lot of affluence there. So we identify those kind of communities or pin codes and we started installing there also.
Yeah.
And more importantly, what you've seen is tier 2s are all about these kind of setups, right? And we also have seen that tier 2 has got, like, if you see Bangalore and all these new cities that are coming up, right? These gated communities are mostly, migrant population who are, who are first time affluents, right? The first generation affluent families, right? Yeah. But what we are seeing in this tier 2, these affluent families are multi-generation affluent families. Correct. So they have lots and lots of, physical valuables to keep safe. We actually are seeing very high adoption in tier 2, tier 3 of our product.
Okay.
Right. Then in tier 1.
And what explains that to your mind? Because they would probably already have access
They
to a
already have
locker.
bank lockers, but the convenience. See, the problems of bank lockers continue to remain the same. I go, and most of these guys, right? If you see a bank locker, the biggest locker which is there is almost on the ground.
Okay.
When I spoke to them, they said, Vijay, when I go there, I almost have to take one handkerchief for putting there, and I have to sit down to access the locker. And second handkerchief is I take out my jewelry and put on that thing. Jo leke jana mujhe. And they give one big box, and where your one that necklace or earring is there, pura nikalna padta hai, right? And then you take this out and put rest everything inside. That whole process they felt is very, very cumbersome, right? And timing and all this. And most of the people, right, they don't want to go to a bank locker with anybody else other than their family members. They're not comfortable going with a driver also, right? They only want to go with their spouses or their kids if they're adults, right? They said, now I don't have to deal with all these things. I just go to this place and automatically I take it out. It's all automated, this thing, and I come back home. So we are, and because of these reasons, and the pricing is never a problem there, right? Because the value that you're providing to them, and they have a lot, right? They wanted multiple lockers, and also that's the reason I think in tier 2 it is going much better than these places.
No, I think it's what's very interesting for me is that you've been able to innovate at 3 sort of vectors. The first is access. A lot of affluent Indians don't have even availability of bank lockers. The second is around convenience. It's close to them. And the third, which you were last referring to, was around experience, right?
Yeah.
Like make it a positive, high quality premium experience. There's one element, however, which is this whole element of trust. And you spoke about the kind of military grade security and other things that you're doing. But on the brand side, how do you think about spending there? Do you advertise? Do you do social media? What is the strategy there to get the message out to more people?
See, first is a lot of people in India are living with this latent problem, right? Locker is not a top of the mind problem that you have, right?
That's right.
It is you get to think about a locker the moment you're traveling or a wedding. You have to get a locker, and you have to visit the locker. All those are the trigger points for you to get it, right?
That's right.
A lot of this is a latent need, right? So we are doing a lot in terms of making the consumer aware of this latent need, and then we are saying that don't think that there is no problem because there is no solution. People are accepting the fact that mujhe locker nahi milega, right? Once we are creating awareness about the problem, we are also creating awareness about the solution, right? So these are the two things that happen in the normal marketing way, right? But we are also doing a lot in terms of how do you win the trust, right? So for trust, what we figured out is, word of mouth is a very, very important factor for the trust this thing.
Sure.
Right? And I said that, for me, my operating cost is actually 70% of my operating cost can be attributed towards brand building, right? The reason is if I give the best experience, right? The customer will go and speak to 10 neighbors, right? And he's making the people aware of the problem, and more importantly, he's giving a social proofing that yes, I have used the product and it is really good, right? So for us, giving a superlative experience is the best trust marker that we have. Second, what we have done is, some table stakes thing, right? We got ourselves vetted from a third party, and we got, ISO standards for, our own company. Second is, I think the insurance company coming and giving insurance. This is first in the world, actually. We are the only locker provider in the world that is able to provide insurance to all the valuables of your locker. We don't even ask question, what did you keep in the locker? We give insurance currently up to 1 crore rupees, right? Because this is a new product, it is 1 crore. Next year onwards, it will become like you have to tell that, okay, I want insurance for 6 crores. You pay a premium up to 6 crores or 7 crores, whatever you think.
I want to see what's in that 6 crore locker.
Right? But what I'm trying to tell here is, we have created the system in such a way that the insurance company is doubly sure and giving me the kind of insurance that I want.
Yeah.
And that itself is the highest, trust market for the consumer, right? But he also currently wants to validate a new concept chalega kaise? Like imagine if, there was a first flight in the history of world, and somebody is telling that, leave your bullock cart, get onto this, and you'll reach from place A to place B. People always will take, with a pinch of salt, I can't go the first time, right? What they'll do is there'll be some early adopters who will come onto this thing.
Yeah.
And they will have a successful flight, and they will tell the story that it was really good.
That's right.
And what used to take me 10 days to go, I completed that in 10 minutes. When you tell all the positives of, I didn't have to go 4 hours to a bank locker with my husband, coordinate with him, her, and, go through that experience, and I just got it in 2 minutes. When people hear this kind of experience, then my next set of customers come, right? So we play a lot in terms of giving the best experience. For me, one experience, good experience, or the experience that I have designed is felt by one consumer. That is actually giving me, 10 awareness points.
Nice.
Because you go and talk to 10 more consumers.
Yeah.
Right? So that is the way we are building trust.
Yeah. No, I think it's fantastic. Vijay, you've personally founded 2 companies. You've worked in finance at Goldman Sachs. How has all of this influenced the way you manage your own money?
Mine is a completely different thing, right? I'll tell you a little bit. I started investing very early in my career, right? Okay. And, as an Air Force pilot also, we used to get a lot of time. Other than flying, time milta tha, trading bahut karte the.
Achha.
And that time I was thinking that bahut paisa ban raha hai, right? And then later, the first thing that I stopped doing after doing my MBA was trading. I figured out that, you require really, I was actually doing sattabazi that time, right? When the Air Force, whatever I was doing, not knowing anything, sab kuch volumes yahan pe ja raha, something is happening. And that time, obviously, I didn't have so much of money that a private wealth manager could have taken my, money and managed wealth for me. So I said that let me not do anything. Jab tak mera enough paisa nahi banega that I can hire a private wealth manager, because that is his expertise, right? I kept on saving money. Whatever money I saved, I started MyGate.
Okay.
Right. And whatever money I made in MyGate, I started Aurm. So till now I have been investing on myself. Sure. Right? All the crazy ideas that I have on myself, right? I think now I'm realizing the importance of, you need to create wealth for yourself, right? And I'll tell you why also I need to create wealth for myself, right? Of course, I've done well in MyGate and, personal, this thing is sorted. But what I've seen is in the Indian ecosystem, right? A lot of people who are earning very well, right? And, 1 crore, 1.5, 2 crores of salaries, right? 45 years you can get that kind of salary if you're really doing well, right? Yeah. And suddenly if you're not able to crack that ceiling and go to the next level, you become redundant.
Correct.
Right? Because you get younger people, and now with younger people plus AI is able to, do a lot what a senior person. I think the mid layer is completely getting wiped out, right?
Yeah.
Before that only I've seen that so many people are getting jobless and they're not able to find a job. And on the flip side, our average, longevity has increased.
That's right.
Right? Earlier it was 60, 70 years. Was more average life was 60, 70 years, what our grandparents lived.
Yeah.
And what I believe is we live at least 90 years because of the healthcare advancement and, the kind of lifestyle. Whatever we do, so a lot of interventions, and 80, 90 years is sorted, right?
Yeah.
Your productivity right now is only 20 years. 25 to 45.
Correct.
If you don't manage your wealth properly, if you don't create a runway for another, 40 years, right? You're gone.
Yeah.
And that is the reason because of which, I actually feel that if I didn't know this aspect, what I spoke now, around 20 years or 15 years back when I started MyGate, if I could have known about this, probably मैं MyGate नहीं करता, right? So much is a fear, right? So what I feel is wealth management is no more a luxury now. It's an option. It's a mandatory thing. You need to think about managing your wealth right from the time you're getting earning, right? Because you only have 20 years for that.
Yeah.
And you have to eat with this for remaining 45 years.
Yeah. You couldn't have made a better pitch for what we do. But the point is well taken. It's almost like a utility now.
Yes.
Like you need to have a structured way of running your portfolio. Either you yourself are competent at doing that, or then there is somebody else?
And see, you cannot be competent in doing that here. There is only somebody else who is competent at doing that. Because I, as an individual, unless my core is into that, right? I'm a finance guy and I understand everything well. How, even being a finance, right? If you don't know a lot of intricacies about the business that you're investing in, you cannot take the right call, right? I would say it's a very involved process, right? Even, you do an MBA in finance, it doesn't mean that you will be able to do good in investment.
Correct.
Till the time you have the complete visibility. And this is, I think a structured program that people need to go through.
Absolutely. One of the rules that doctors have is they never treat themselves.
Yes.
For a reason, for the same reason that you cannot be dispassionate about your own self.
Correct. Yes.
And therefore you need external help. Vijay, on this, as somebody who's founded multiple companies, you mentioned that you had also invested your own capital. How should founders be thinking about deploying their own capital in their company versus raising? And secondly, how do you think about taking founder secondaries? Which is the right time, not the right time? Is it a good thing to do, not a good thing to do? Do you have a framework or a mental model around it?
First question I'll answer, right? When do you take money, right? See, I think we need to take money when you feel that you have a lot of capability, that you can you can solve a particular problem. And that problem needs, capital infusion. And of course, you don't have money. And mostly this situation arises for people who are in that age group of 25 to 35.
Okay.
They identified some problem and a new way of living, right? Of course, every 10, 20 years, the way in which we live and consume is also changing. A youngster will come out with a better solution, which, a 45, 50 years guy cannot identify. And that person needs to take a punt. And of course, he does not have that kind of money. I think those are the people who need to look at, external capital, whether it is a VC or a friends and relatives or an HNI or family office, whatever, right? He needs external capital. But for a second time founder, right, I became much more calibrated also, right? A second time founder is much more calibrated. He is able to visualize how the business is likely to pan out, right? From the word go. What is the kind of capital that is required and what the pace at which the capital is required, right? A lot of confidence has come into him in terms of what is the minimum that I need to start, and what are the milestones that I need to infuse capital, right? And it becomes much easy for you to fund your own if the milestones are well paced out, almost like in, you're buying a real estate, it will have, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 and multiple, I would say intervals to pay money. If you're able to identify that, probably you will be able to fund it with your own balance sheet, or probably the way business is progressing, business itself will be able to generate that, right?
Sure.
So I think that's the way I took the call for my second this thing. But even I would advise the same thing to, any founder who's looking at, raising funds. From the second part in terms of, taking secondaries, right? So I keep telling this to a lot of, people, and a lot of my friends ask me, when some of my friends have invested in Aurm just to be part of the story, they ask, Vijay, why don't you invest your entire money? Why are you taking money from outside? Right? Then I told them one thing that, the DNA that is required to build a business is completely different from the DNA that is needed to give a value to that business. And a DNA completely different to realize that value. So what I'm saying is building a business and raising money at a particular valuation from investors, basically giving a valuation to it is a different DNA. And getting money from investors for that valuation is a different DNA.
Sure.
Right? So not many people have all the three, skills. Some people will build business, some people will build valuation. Actually, valuation is not built by the founder, because the guy who's investing will build the valuation first. The third and the most important, how do you create liquidity for yourself? Most of us don't know, right? To that matter, even I don't know. Right? But I feel that, after a certain when you feel that a business has become self-sustaining, right? You don't need any more external capital, right? That is the time founders need to think about liquidity, right? And that cannot be infinity, right? It cannot be more than 10 years. So you need to identify business that is going to make you profitable by, 6-7 years. And if you take some discount, probably 10 years. I think that is the time you should look at liquidity, so that, your credibility is also made during this time.
Yeah.
And you also earn it, right? As it is, you're taking salary. There is nothing that, SNE ki
Your hand to mouth.
hand to mouth.
Yeah.
Value creation will happen, I would say, in 10 years' time.
Yeah.
People should look at a liquidity by making the company profitable. And probably 10 years is the right time frame for it. And, and you need to demand the liquidity then. It's not that you're not at the mercy of somebody.
Correct.
Right? Yeah.
Correct. So around 10 years or when the company is becoming self-sustainable,
yes,
that's the time founders should take secondary.
Yes.
I think it's a very clear framework. Vijay, I think I've loved how you've applied first principles to everything, including this point of fundraising and founder secondaries. Thank you so much. I've learned a lot in this conversation.
Thanks.
Really appreciate you doing this.
Yeah, thank you.